How? Welcome to this awesome episode. There's a lot to chat about today. I'm going to be going over that, and then later on we'll go over some of the mortgage updates that we are seeing in the market, and then at the end of the episode we'll do a draw. I got all the names ready to go here for the pizza gift card that we're giving this week from my Mortgage Music Monday song event that I did. But first, how much are closing costs? So you're probably wondering, when I buy a home, how much are they going to be? So what I'll make sure to do is go over all the possible closing costs that you can run into when you're buying your home. And when I go over that today, please note that sometimes closing costs can be different for certain folks and certain types of purchases, so they can all range differently. So it's important to speak to your mortgage professional, whether that is myself, I can help you if you're in Ontario, or your own mortgage professional. Make sure that you go over that with them to ensure that you're budgeting for every possible closing cost that is out there. All right, so before we get into it, if you guys have any comments or questions, please do leave them in the comment section below, or if you have a private concern, do email me or text me directly. I'd be happy to take on any questions you may have. All right, so when you're buying your home, first closing cost that I like to go over with, and it's something that's very, very obvious for me, but maybe not for you, would be your down payment. So how much is that? How much is your down payment? How much should you have? Well, there's two parts to the down payment. One is the deposit, and the second is the remaining part of your down payment. So say you're buying a home, and you're buying a home for $500,000. You can afford that. You've been pre-qualified, whatever it is. Your income supports that. But say your home is $500,000. Well, how much is your down payment going to be? Well, if you're going to put the minimum amount of down payment, that's going to cost $25,000. That is a 5% down payment, and you can do that in Canada as a first-time home buyer, or you can actually do that as a second or a third-time home buyer, no problem, so long as you pay the CMHC fees that are added to your mortgage. So $25,000 would be your down payment. Now that gets split up into those two sections. One would be your deposit, and the rest would be, the second would be your remaining down payment. So for your deposit, that works usually out to about $1,000 to $5,000. Say, for example, you're writing an offer to purchase your first home or your second home, and you put your deposit down, that is $5,000. Well, you can be rest assured that that deposit of $5,000 will go towards your total down payment. So out of the $25,000, you've already given $5,000, and now you just have to give $20,000 more for a total of $25,000. So that is actually your first part of the closing cost, is your down payment. So far we have $25,000. All right. So I'm just gonna mute this here so I can sneeze. All right, I just sneezed there. But for $25,000, that's your down payment with your deposit. What's next? Well, then you have land transfer taxes. And land transfer taxes are actually quite a burden in Ontario because they can add up to be quite substantial. However, you can get a rebate if you are a first-time home buyer. So let me go over that with you now. If you are buying a home and it's your second or third time, your land transfer taxes for a $500,000 home will come out to $6,475. Now, if you're a first-time home buyer, that will be a $4,000 rebate right away on closing that we can set up for you with your lawyer to take advantage of this rebate so you can get that money back and you don't have to actually come up with it in the first place. But $6,475 are the total land transfer taxes, and that is a tax paid by anyone who's purchasing land in Ontario. All right, so what is the next closing cost that we can run into here? And that would be legal fees. How much are legal fees? Well, legal fees to purchase a home can range up to $2,500, and there's really no rebates available for first-time home buyers on this. But if you are a second-time home buyer, like a move-up buyer, there is a legal fee rebate program available through some of my lenders that you need to ask me about if you want to take advantage of that for second or third time home buyers. They're only available through certain lenders, so sometimes it's better to take a different lender with a different rate and forego the program, but make sure you talk to your professional about the Move Up legal fee rebate program. All right, so legal fees, that's $2,500. We estimated at that. What is the next possible closing cost that we could run into when you're buying a home? Well, that's actually registration costs and legal disbursements. So how much does that run up? Well, that can be anywhere from $500 to $1,000. And usually that's rolled in with your legal fees, but say it's not, we'll do worst case scenario, we'll add on $1,000 to the closing cost. And that money is coming out of the amount the lawyer charges to finish their work. You can get deals out there, and I always recommend calling around and getting quotes from a lot of lawyers. And if you want a lawyer for your purchase, I can recommend some good lawyers that don't charge very much. So we can get that all done for you. Next is title insurance. And title insurance is required by all banks and lenders these days. Title insurance protects your title for the bank, and it protects your title for you. You can actually get a policy that will cover you for the life of living in your home with that mortgage. You don't need to pay it again. It's one time. There's also adjustments if required. Sometimes adjustments can be required if you are negotiating with the seller and maybe they've removed an appliance or you're paying interest on their mortgage or something like that. I'm going to leave that out here because I don't see those very often, and they only happen if we're extending closing dates or something like that, and the seller needs to keep the house for a longer period of time, meaning that they need to hold the mortgage for a longer period of time. Anyway, besides the point, let's not worry about that, but adjustments and incidentals, they can range widely and happen specifically for every scenario differently. Appraisal. So say you need an appraisal. If you're buying with 5% down, typically that appraisal is covered by your CMHC insurance. If you're buying with 20% down or more, it can cost about $400 to $500 for an appraisal, including HST. So in this case, we're not going to go with an appraisal because we are going with 5% down, but there is such thing called as PST on your mortgage insurance. So how much is your PST going to cost? Well, on a $500,000 home with a minimum down payment, you're looking at a PST amount of about $1,500. And the tax, that's essentially the provincial sales tax on the CMHC insurance amount that you are adding to your mortgage. And that tax is payable upfront at closing. All right, what else do we have here? Commitment fees. Well, commitment fees are fees that some lenders and banks charge on their mortgages. Typically, this is not for first-time homebuyers and only reserved for folks that have really poor credit and have no chance of getting a mortgage through a bank. So if you're running into a commitment fee, it means your credit score is in the dumps for whatever reason, or you have a very unique kind of financing scenario, and I don't run into that very often. Usually there's no commitment fees. And in this case, if you're buying with 5% down, there will not be any commitment fees. So we'll keep that at 0. Then there's an interest adjustment. Interest adjustment just means, say you have your mortgage payments set as bi-weekly, and you're going to be doing those mortgage payments bi-weekly going forward, but your first payment doesn't come out for, say, 3 weeks. That means there's a 3-week gap between closing and your first mortgage payment. Well, the first mortgage payment being 3 weeks away and you're on bi-weekly, that means there's an extra week in there the bank needs to account for. So typically what they'll do is they'll take that extra week upfront and interest only, and that can be about $500. So we'll add that to the cost there, a $500 interest adjustment, and that will buy you that 3-week time frame before your first bi-weekly mortgage payment. And then we have the dreaded property tax holdback. Now, property tax holdbacks essentially happen only on mortgages where the property taxes are being collected with the mortgage payment. What the lender will do is actually collect the mortgage payment and the property tax portion on your financing. So with that, the lender will take your property taxes And with that, they will property taxes and submit the property tax payment to the lender, to the city accordingly. Now, what happens if you buy your property, say in January? Well, that lender is going to come to a property tax bill in February or March of that year for could be about $2,000. So what they need to do is they need to actually account for that money ahead of time. So they may actually hold back 6 months worth of property tax payments on closing. And that comes off as closing costs. So say your property taxes in this case scenario will be $5,000 a year and they hold back 6 months. They'll hold back $2,500 just to make sure that they have enough property taxes to pay when they come due in February, March, if you're buying in January. And that just means that the bank always needs to have enough money to pay your property taxes in full whenever that bill comes. If you want to avoid this closing cost, I always recommend setting up your property taxes directly with your municipality in a way where they can actually pre-authorize debit your account every month for that property tax payment. All right. And that's it. Those are the main closing costs we see. And let me just add these up here and go over them with you again. We have $25,000 for your down payment and deposit on a $500,000 home. And then we have $6,475 for your land transfer taxes on a $500,000 home. And then we have legal fees in the amount estimated of $2,500. Now, like I said, call around. You could get better deals. Then we have about disbursements and adjustments and incidentals for $1,000. Then we have an appraisal cost, if required, that's $400. And then we have provincial sales tax on the CMHC that you're paying on your mortgage because you're doing minimum down payment, and that's due on closing. Closing costs will be about $1,500. And then we have an interest adjustment payment. Say you're doing a biweekly payment, but you're not starting your first payment for 3 weeks after closing. Then you would need about a small interest adjustment. Typically on a $500,000 home, that works out about $500. And then lastly, we have a property tax holdback. If you're including property taxes with your mortgage payments, the lender will need to hold back some funds so they can make your first property tax bill in full without using any of their own money. Obviously, they want to use your money, so you're going to put that hold back in the account. And the way to avoid this extra $2,500 is to set up the taxes directly with your municipality and have them debit your account, pre-authorized debit every month as the taxes come due. All right, so all that together, $500,000 home, your total closing costs and down payment will come to $39,875 in a worst case scenario. I obviously have a little bit over budgeted every single amount except for the down payment and land transfer taxes. And if you're a first-time home buyer, you're going to receive a $4,000 rebate on closing for this amount. So the amount will drop to instead of $39,875, it'll drop to $35,875. All right. So that's closing costs and what to expect there. Now, before I move on, let me just remind you that we're doing the draw for Mortgage Music Mondays at the end of this episode. So hang tight. I have a bunch of names here ready to go in my names basket for the $25 pizza gift card. In the meantime, let's go on to some mortgage updates here. I'll let you know what's happening in the market today. All right. So the 3-month interbank rate, it's been staying at 5.05 to 5.04%. That's the CDOR rate, the 3-month interbank rate. And essentially, this tells me if variable rate mortgages are a competitive option. And because they've been so high for so long and staying stagnant at this range, I would say variable rates aren't really as competitive as they were before. They could still be an option for a lot of my clients, depending on where you are in your mortgage goals and ownership goals and where you are on your plan for that. So make sure you talk to me or your mortgage professional about where you're going to end up with your mortgage and what you're planning to do to make sure that fixed or variable, we can pick the right one for you. All right. What else do we have here? We have the Canadian bond yield. And I like to follow specifically the 5-year Canadian bond yield to determine what fixed rate mortgages are at. And right now we have seen the 5-year Canadian bond yield hovering between 2.92 and 3.08% in that sort of 15 basis point window, with it sitting at around 2.96% as of this morning. So with that in mind, it's a lot lower than where it was in March. We had a 5-year Canadian bond yield at around 3.6%, which had fixed rates about 50 basis points higher than where they are at now. So now is actually a great time to get pre-approved and lock in that monthly mortgage payment before it could possibly go up in the future. And as so long as you lock that in, if rates do go up, you have that lower rate protected. And if rates go down, we can actually adjust that rate down for you. All right. Now, in terms of jobs, which is one of the metrics that I use and what a lot of economists use to determine whether or not rates will come down or up, is that as of last month, and this was March now, jobs did go up 0.2% from the previous month. So jobs are still strong in Canada, and we are still seeing more jobs, uh, more net jobs for employment. So long as that happens, rates probably will not have any downward pressure. But they are talking about rates having downward pressure at the end of this year or early next. So we'll have to see about that and see how that all goes. So what about the Canadian inflation rate? Well, the Canadian inflation rate did drop again in March to 4.3%. That's a big drop from the 8.1% we saw in June of 2022. Wow, pretty fantastic to see that low interest inflation rate. However, the inflation is still pretty high, and with that inflation being where it's at, you can still expect pressure from the Bank of Canada to keep rates where they are at going forward. American inflation is not too far behind. It's sitting currently at 5%. It is down from a peak of 9.1% in June of 2022. However, it's still above where the US Fed does want to have inflation, so that's where that is at currently. What about the Canadian housing market? What's happening with house prices? Well, in March of 2023, we did see house prices increase again for the second month in a row. There was a 4% increase in average sold price to $686,371. That is a fantastic increase. And the month before, we saw an even more fantastical increase of 8%. And these are the 2 months that we've seen price increases in that range. We have not seen price increases like this since early 2022 when the prices were going bananas. So I think that these price changes have a lot to do actually with the rates on the fixed side going down, allowing people to afford more home and being able to buy into the market, because we have seen a 41% additional transactions this month versus last month. And with the rates going down, that has enabled a lot of clients to get into the market. So if you're looking to get into the market, don't wait, get pre-approved now, because you might miss your window before prices catch up and you won't be able to get that deal that you could have before, and you'll have to wait for that next window. All right, so what else do we have here? We've gone over jobs, bond yield, Canadian interest rates. They have been going down on the fixed side. They're still staying stagnant. We got the variable rate still high. We got variable rates based on the prime rate, which currently sits at 6.7%. And we do have the next Bank of Canada announcement coming up in about a month's time. That will be on June 7th. We'll do an announcement right here on Canadian Mortgage Weekly Live at 10 a.m. with a pre-rate show starting at 9:45 a.m. So really excited about that, and join me for that at that time. So thanks for joining me on Canadian Mortgage Weekly. So far, we have our announcement and our draw to do now. So with that, as you guys know, I've been doing Mortgage Music Mondays. started this week for May, which is National Moving Month. Happy National Moving Month, which is May. That's why we're covering closing costs. May is recognized as the National Moving Month. And with that, we want to give away some pizza gift cards, because what better food to eat when you're moving than pizza? So it all comes together here on Canadian Mortgage Weekly. So let me look through the names here. As you see, I'm ruffling through the papers. We had a bunch of entries. We had some on Instagram. We had some on my YouTube channel. We had some on TikTok as well. And we had some on Facebook. So thank you to all of you who entered this draw. Let's see here. Who's going to win this pizza gift card? We have a name. All right. So the winner of the pizza gift card this week, actually, is Jennifer Stenhoff. So congratulations. Yay. You've won $25 pizza gift card to the pizza place of your choice. And I'll be reaching out to you probably tomorrow to let you know, if you haven't reached out already to me, that you won the gift card and I can get it to you for the weekend. So thanks for joining me this week on Canadian Mortgage Weekly, Canada's only weekly video mortgage news podcast. And we'll see you next week on Thursday for another episode where we spotlight National Moving Month. And we'll also look at we'll watch for Monday as our new video for Mortgage Music Mondays comes out for our next song of the week, to see if you can win next week's gift card. So thanks for participating, everyone. Thanks for watching. My name is 𝗪𝗚𝗏. I'm your Ontario mortgage broker. If you have any questions, reach out to me. You can book an appointment with me in the link description below, and we'll see you